computer.
Got it.
Hooray. All right. So,
What's up, man? What's up?
hello, Mike. So, what you've got is the Torah codes.
Yeah, I'll give you a brief explanation on my journey with the Torah codes.
Please do. Please do.
So, as I was in Christianity a while back, I'm talking like 7 or so, maybe more years ago, I was interested in the Hebrew writing. I thought, why should I allow them to show it to me in English when I'm smart enough that I could learn this language and I could read the Dead Sea Scrolls for myself? Like, that's all part of, as a researcher and a truther, that's who I am. I need to know. You know what I mean? It'll bug me if I don't know. So I took Hebrew classes through the Hebrew Israelite School of Language or something like that. They're pretty common on Facebook. I was with them a year and I graduated, got an A plus. And when it was over, I was following this guy on YouTube, Dave Zacher. And I'm like, now what am I going to do now that I'm done with my Hebrew? Like, I need something to keep me going so I can improve in my Hebrew. And there was this guy on this channel, something Ministries on YouTube. He's like, hey, you might want to talk to this guy in chat. He does Torah codes. And I'm like, Torah codes? He's like, you know about the Hebrew? He's like, the Torah? I was like, yeah, the first 5 books of the Bible. He's like, they're encoded and you can figure out codes and stuff. And I'm like, now I'm really intrigued. I really need to know, like, what's going on. So I contacted him and he was telling me about it. So I went and looked at this Jewish rabbi. Can't remember his name now. He's a popular Jewish rabbi, but he does Torah codes. So after I watched a couple of his videos, I was like, now I'm really intrigued. So then I called Jonathan from Torah Code class or TorahCode.com or something like that. TorahCodes.com. I don't remember what it is. It was, like I said, it was like 5-7 years ago. But anyway, I went through this code class for like 3-4 years, and I learned how to do Torah codes, which ultimately led me right out of the Bible. It was funny how it worked because it was like I tell people, it was more like an Ouroboros. I started out in witchcraft and paranormal investigating. And through my experiences in paranormal investigating, it led me to the Christianity, because after seeing a demon face to face, you're like, so if this stuff is real, then that stuff up there got to be real, right? You come to that logic of thinking. So that's what led me into Christianity. Well, as time went by and I went through all these courses, became a pastor and whatnot, the Torah code I shared on Facebook, how it showed me Paul was literally a false apostle, which it kind of tells you that allegorically in the Bible anyway, if you pay attention to the storyline. But it was just cool how, and let me see if I can I share on here?
Yeah, you can. Share screen's enabled.
Let's see if I can find it here. All right, so is that sharing?
Yes.
All right, so what it is this is on a cylinder in a program, on a computer program. And like you would start from the book of Matthew, and you can either do the whole book, all the chapters, because it's wrapped around the cylinder. So you can either do one book or you can do all 5 books or all 8 books. You can do as many books as you want. If I'm not mistaken, I think this was in Romans. I can't remember the book. I would have to go back and check my program, install my program and stuff again and find out what it was. But basically, the lines here, like you start out with your root word. The box here in the red is your root word. I can't see it well enough to explain what the word is, and because it's like really tiny on my screen. But when you connect all these dots, like I have, it tells you what these Hebrew letters are according to the scripture as it goes down. You see what I'm saying?
But why are you connecting dots? Like, where do you get the idea to connect the dots?
This is how they do it. Like even your prominent Torah code teachers that are rabbis that do this. I wish I could find that rabbi's name because he could explain it.
You mean they're connecting the vowel characters underneath the Hebrew letters?
No, they're taking the lines. Like this whole line here is a sentence in the Bible.
Right.
And it just wraps around to the next sentence, to the next sentence, to the next sentence, the way
Right.
down through chapters, okay? So within these, you find like this one says Shaul or Paul right on top of the root word here. See how that says Shaul,
Right.
Paul?
Okay. So now my question for you is, because we're viewing this on a flat surface, this is supposed to be on a cylinder. So these horizontal on angle lines would actually be straight up and down lines.
Well, when it's all rolled out, it looks like this.
But
But
when
it's
it's all
around
wrapped
the
together,
cylinder.
it's like they're vertical. Like that's
Right.
what.
Right. So you're going like every so many letters. Like I don't remember how it was set up, but the allegory is like you would go every fifth letter, and every fifth letter would spell out Torah. You see what I'm saying? So you would go how many ever letters in the sequence.
Oh, fucking
You,
anagram puzzles.
it's fascinating when you start to understand it. It goes a lot deeper. But this, I just thought it was funny because I was looking and I was like, yeah, I remember this code. I remember doing this code. This was one of the big decisions that day that was like, yes, the New Testament is full of shit. Like,
Well,
it
of
all to
course
me,
it
it
is. I
was,
mean, it's not a Christian text; it's a Jewish text, and the
it's a
fact
Jewish text.
that anybody that's not like hard into the Jewish studies, like what you've done, to comment on the Bible as it being authentic, that's just as authentic as the Grimm's fairy tales, in my opinion.
But when you understand the Bible and that it's meant allegorically, it's not meant as like a history or a book of like history or anything like that. Like it was built out. You can look at all the mythologies versus what we have today and what the modern ancient ancestors believed. If you go by the book as a history book, I'm sorry, but you failed right away. You failed right away. You might as well just say, okay, I'm a sheeple and follow the masses, because that's basically what you're doing. It wasn't until I went into other mythologies like Sumerian and Hindu, Catholic, and I started looking at all these other mythologies, and I'm like, well, geez. I got into some syncretism, and I'm like, well, now that makes a lot of fucking sense when you explain it like that. That guy Santos Panaccia, I sent you the video of.
Yeah.
Great man, he's fucking like on point, awesome with syncretism, and he breaks it down like well, his older ones do. Now that he's in syncretism society, it's kind of like you got to pay for all that knowledge. But I
Right.
watched him when he first came out, and like that's where all my charts came from because I watched him. That's how I got into syncretism and hermeneutics. But it was just weird how it all, because the Torah codes as I was doing them, it was fucking hilarious. Kept giving me like three letters, the last three letters of the Hebrew alphabet, I think it was. And it took me a while to catch on, but throughout my codes would always be these letters and they would be somewhere. Well, ultimately, it was telling me to split it in half, split the network is what these letters came out to be. And I'm sitting there like, so ultimately I split the New Testament off and kept the Old Testament, became interested in the Jewish rabbis and their way of teaching Kabbalah, the Zohar, and all that, which ultimately led me to King Solomon and his sorcery.
And full
And that's
circle
where
back again.
it just it was just awesome. But a lot, I got to say, the Torah codes were a lot heavily influenced on the back of that book. Like it's for control. It's fear based. That's really all it is. I mean, even the beginning, those who win history write history. Think about that, guys. Did not the Israelites win? Like, did not the Jewish people win back in 1947? Like, I know the book's older than that, but there was wars back then too. Like, they adopted from an earlier mythology. How do we know that? Because some of the commandments that you find in the Bible were written 1,000 years prior by a King Hammurabi in the Sumerian text. So tell me how that's original, how this supposed God gave you these rules on top of a mountain, when some of these rules were already predated 1,000 years before. It doesn't make sense to me. I can't, it doesn't equate, it doesn't click. So no. you look back further. And then, like I said, when you start looking back into the older mythologies, like before the Bible, with the Sumerian, the Akkadian, the Hinduism, you start learning about the chakras and your energy and the hermeneutics, like Thoth and Hermes Trismegistus, Plato, Aristotle, all them. They all knew that the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas, they all went by astrology. Astrology told them when to plant their harvest. Astrology told them when to do their things, when to sacrifice to their deities, whether it be a deity of luck and fortune because they had a good year, or whether it be a deity of growth to have a good year. There's all kinds of deities. You know that as well as I do. So,
But no, I'm specifically talking about, like, so for example, my use of the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. I use it for empire building technique. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, that is very much a system of, it's a to-do list.
Well, I mean, you can use the Bible also as like an anagram to show the seasons of the equinox just through the story of Jesus. Like, yeah. I mean, that's how it was. Everything was allegorically. Everything was symbolic. Everything,
absolutely. And that's the thing, is like, while it might be symbolic for the Christian text, the Hebrew texts are a different animal.
They are.
And that's why I'm specific. That's why it was like a specific, like, okay, well, how do you get these?
Your Hebrew language is actually magical. It's mystical. I mean, even if you take it back to the Paleo, like, there's something there. It is mystical. Like, just like with your Latin, you can, abolish demons with Latin. You can do it with Hebrew too, if you know, though. You know what I mean? But you can also call forth. You can create. You can do a lot of things with the Hebrew language.
Oh, absolutely. Every letter is a different type of power, in the same kind of way that the Icelandic runes are a different type of power.
Exactly.
So it's when you write it, you have that ability to create scriptural magic. So you're creating talismans and shit like that when you write out verses in the Bible in Hebrew or in Latin. English, not so much, because it's jumbled up the meanings and it's recreated meanings, but it's through those creation of meanings by combination of letter characters that provides for power and association of power. And so that's why it's like, all right, well, how did you get those codes in the first place? Like,
well, and again, I mean, if you look at your Paleo Hebrew, I don't know, can you see this? Your Paleo Hebrew are pictures,
right?
You know what I mean, like, there's an ox head, there's a bet, for house, a gimel, which is like the neck of a camel, the dalet, which is like a door,
right,
and so on and so forth. Your zadi, which is, or your yod, which is like a man. They're all picture wise, and so was other things at that time. Other languages, your blocks, your Sumerian, like, they all meant something. Your Egyptian, per se. So I find even today, it's funny because so many thousands of years later, where are we at today? We're on a computer with emojis. Everything's emojis, right?
Everything's going back to
we evolved right back around to fucking pictures. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. History does rewrite itself.
It does. And it's interesting because it's, I try to follow things that are long-lived, like trying to track down hidden histories and trying to track down histories that are put in plain sight, and they're worded in a different way in a different tradition, but it's the same damn history in a different culture. It's like a migration of long-lived things from one society to another so they can hide and blend in. Mm-hmm. And everything is finally coming together full circle all around the globe. And it's like, okay, well, these people were over here and these people are over here and these people are over here. And there's supposed to be cultural isolation, but that's not actually happening because of the trade routes.
That's a lot of things. And see, that's the thing. People don't realize back then, they don't stop and think about the trade route and what was really going on at that time with the trade route, like, as it expanded and what was being added to it. Like, people don't think a lot about back then, or even what went on back then. What, they didn't have computers and telephones and all that other shit. You know what I mean? Like,
no, they would spend 6 months walking back and forth from the Silk Road, like, from one end to the other.
It was a very, very rough time back then.
Yeah. It's like there's a Chinese section of the Silk Road which cuts to this little valley that has its own microclimate, so it's perfect in wintertime. And it's got all the medicinal plants. It's got a bunch of rare ingredients. It's got some of the world's best, and that don't come from that location originally.
Right.
And so it's like what people were able to do and what they were able to accomplish because they had the wherewithal and the will to do it.
Well, they had the wisdom back then to do it too, because it was passed down. It wasn't book burnt and forgotten in history because of greedy people. Back then, people, their pineal glands weren't calcified because they weren't being fed toothpaste and calcium in their water. Like, they were able to use their third eye. They had that concept. They knew that they were of a divine being, and that they could have contact with the divine beings. People, some call them the Anunnaki, some call them the fallen angels, some call them gods and goddesses. These entities exist. People don't understand this, like, just like I told you
I've
before,
met them one-to-one. I know they exist.
Right.
Like, they exist. They're
Right.
just as real as you and me. So that's their
Exactly.
existence is not in question here.
Right. So, when people try to explain, because I thought for a while when I was even going through Christianity, when I would hear people talk about the chakras and meditation and yoga and all that, I used to think, yeah, that's a money-making scheme. I wished I was fucking thin and fit and could bend like that, because I'd be a rich motherfucker, you know what I mean? But it's more than just that. You know what I mean? It's more than just that. When you understand who you are and you understand the reality, the planes around you, like the physical world and the formative world, the creative world, the archetype world. Like, when you understand these different realms, which are ultimately Yod-Heh-Wah, which is the name of God. Like, I could get deep into this. Like, when you understand these realms and you understand that you are made from the same very being that made you, you know what I mean? You're here because Mother Earth is to feed you and nurture you, and you're to learn your experience and create in this world. Like, you are a magical being. Magic exists. Trust me. Like, it's all in the way you do it. Some people don't have good luck with it. They get tortured and go out of their mind. And some people have great luck with it. They go on to be fortune tellers or people that can astral project for other clients. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what I used to thought was a fairy tale, I'm finding through all my research, is not a fairy tale. They did this back in the day, in the time of King Solomon. In the time of Moses, they threw staffs on the ground and they became snakes. Like, dude, that's magic. You can't put anything else there, but that's fucking magic.
Right.
You know what I mean? I throw a staff down on the ground. I guarantee you, it's, unless I chant and have everything ready, it ain't turning into a snake.
I would love to be able to do transfiguration like that.
Right?
Right.
But they could do that back then. That's what I'm saying. So if they could do that back then, you could do it now. You just have to know. It's the occult knowledge, the hidden knowledge. Right. You're not allowed to know. Why? Because you are just as strong as them. Don't educate yourself. Become a dumb sheeple and obey the rules. That's what they want. I'm sorry.
I'm a little bit too antinomian for that. Like, I got a chance to conjure down the Egyptian Netcher, and so by doing that, it put me face to face with them, and I got my full body immersion into these are the gods, and these are not separate gods from what we are supposed to do here on this planet. So, that being said, in a way that doesn't sound crazy to our audience, to people that are learning magic, the people that are just coming into this, is because, yes, I astral project. Yes, I do readings for clients. Yesterday in the tarot share room, which I'm sad you missed over in the Brotherhood, man.
I did. You know what? I typed a message in there and I was like, yo, are we having tarot share? And then I put the movie back on. And then you played. I had my phone on. I got this new phone. Like, my wife just gave me, she got a new phone. So she gave me this phone. And I'm not a cell phone person. Like, I don't like the government knowing where I'm at. Like I'm old school. You know what I mean? Call me on the damn telephone that I can be like, hello, my kids get on me all the time. But I had it, see, right now I just got them out. It's beep, beep, it's on vibrate, because the one night it just kept going off and off and off. And I was like, here, vibrate that damn thing. So when you guys sent me a message back last night, I didn't get it. I was already out. And I was like, woke up this morning and seen everybody at Terran Share. I was deeply upset. I was like,
oh, dude, it was great. Yesterday I made an herbal blend, and it didn't use the cards, full on, just like conjured spirits
Nice.
for about 3 hours. And then I went to pass out. Like I was out by 8 o'clock. Like I was done until 6 this morning. Like, nope, just fucking done. Like
Right.
weirdest dreams of a while. It's like,
Oh, no doubt.
but yeah, no, it was yeah, I used the sacred herbs, so ethnobotany, I did my conjurations with them, and I got the impressions from the spirit. I was able to read for Iyajani, for Teddy, and for Christian.
Right.
And it's knowing the things that I'm capable of doing and being able to teach that to others and demonstrate that on a regular basis.
Right.
That's the thing that it's like, okay, yes, we're wizards, we're witches, we do the magic that our ancestors did.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what we do. And when it comes to dealing with and interacting with spirits, that makes us sorcerers. When it comes to dealing with the natural energies of the world, that makes us witches. When it comes to dealing with the wisdom, that makes us wizards. Everything has a different division as far as what skill set we look to employ at the time. And I believe it's our job as mystics, as holy men, to be able to go through and learn everything in discipline.
Right.
We have to learn astral projection, which is an entirely separate set of psychicism, and being able to communicate with spirits, which is an entirely different skill set from being able to call up the spirits on purpose. Like all of those different things.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, dude.
To learn it. Like, yeah. Like I can go, like I can literally now shut people out and just go on my own little adventure and be my own little la la land, like, and then return to reality once I'm like, my chi is good. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
And that's the thing. It's about, one of the things that I want to do with the Workable Witchery workshop is to create a period of cultivation. So here in about 14 minutes or so is, we'll finish this conversation here and I'll stop the record, restart it, so that way I can stream it into Facebook now that I'm not on Facebook ban. But
right. Awesome.
The techniques of mentorship and business building, so that way we actually have techniques that we can do, because Daniel was, came to me yesterday and he was saying that all his stuff was theoretical. And I'm like, no, this shit is not theoretical. You will do this. Right. This is a thing. I will share you the screen of what he said to me last night. Or actually, yeah, last night and this morning. As far as what he was doing. Right? Okay. So let's see. Share screen. Set it up. Boom. Okay. So he says, I tend to hypothesize more than I actually practice, but regardless, it should be good content to write about. It's like, this is for implementation specifically. People that are actually doing things, don't waste your time if you're not going to get it.
Right.
Right. And so it's like, I went through the actual activities of like what he's doing. And so he said, all right, I'll start putting more action towards the things to read and contemplate, Right.
And that's actually what he should be doing. That's good.
Right. And then he went to the 4 p.m. and the Key of Solomon describes it as the 4 hours of the moon on Sunday for creating a talisman for astral projection.
Right.
And so it's good. And then he's like, awesome, I'll create a sigil for astral projection, empower it with the gate work and bleed into it fully and manifest its usage. The gate casting is something he needs a circle for. No, you don't need a circle for gate casting because you're not actually inviting anything specifically in.
Right.
And so he did. And he said, I feel a little lightheaded. I used a slight divination to verify that the talisman sigil has been charged and fulfilled to completion. So it has. And then he was talking about his experience the night before. And then he goes into his setup for the ritual was a little bit janky, right? He was a little bit rushed, and it had been concluded that he scrawled last minute a gate design onto a piece of paper. And he did the conjuration, and he felt himself pull the power from one end into the other and connected it to the sigil. So he actually, for the first time, did a gate conjuration.
That's what's up.
This is the image that he drew. This is like the after image of what happens with that magic. And so he'll refine it and he'll make it prettier and such like that.
Oh yeah, with his own little wings.
Yeah. But he knew where all of the things were, but he scrawled it out and he was able to see it from what he experienced. And
Right.
that's exactly how I get all of my images for what's a gate, what isn't a gate, what's a circle of binding, etc. Is this same kind of imprint from the actual experience itself.
Right.
Right. And so, it's like you can do it wherever you need to. Like he did this in the bathroom of a chop shop. It's like, that's cool.
Oh yeah.
It's all about the energy working and stuff. And, he can definitely redo it. And so then my question to him was, so how did it feel when you could determine these kinds of things? And he said, conjuring it felt weird in a good way, felt powerful, felt good. Once I started really drawing energy and empowering the sigil, I got a little lightheaded, felt drained, like when you crash in bed. I went back to my room and ate a quick snack to revitalize, and I felt stabilized. I could definitely understand what you were describing. The results from last night worked great, no projection, but I was able to shut down and fill my body with energy. I felt my astral form sway in circles like I was rolling in a barrel. I tried to concentrate it into an energy body and leaving, but it didn't work super well.
Right. That's the thing. People don't understand. A lot of people that are coming, to this, and they're starting to get into this and practice the arts. They're not being told that it's your energy, and this is a lot why I teach hermeneutics, because it's your energy you're putting out, your intent, and that drains you. And if you don't know how to either manage what you're putting out, or constantly recharge it so that you're not drained like I did. Like I fully drained myself. I was out for a long time.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because I wasn't thinking, I was just, focused on one thing. That was the binding. I wasn't focused on anything else, when I should have been focused on bringing in positive energy to recharge what I was putting out. And I didn't do that. And now I've learned that.
Yes. Now you've learned that. But it's the fact is that he went through it for the first time. A brand new beginner to this work, right? Has only been coming to these workshops for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks now.
All right.
And
that's good.
Now he's actually doing practice for the first time, real fucking gate magic. Like from the outer gates into the inner gate, you fill your body with it. Like that's exactly what he did. And he, it's like you recharge your body with the gate spells, because you've got your body in a shell. And if your body isn't conditioned, well, the energy has to come from somewhere. And yes, you can spend hours and hours and hours in meditation, but even then, the mystics understood that you have to open up pathways and channels between those original sources and your body. Without those original sources, you can't get that energy that you're looking for to get your magic working. All right. That's why Taoists use star stepping. They use the mudras. They use the hand seals. They use the seals in their auric field. They use the stuff that they draw in their body. They use all of those things to cultivate the relationship between the outer world and the inner energy body. Because yes, we might be divine beings, but without the energy of the universe flowing through us,
yes,
we are little more than walking balls of clay.
Connection is vital.
It really is. And so this is why I think it's interesting that things like the application of Torah codes, things like the application of those secrets within secrets and those layers and allegories, because in certain cases, they're very literal. In some cases, there are very specific passages, which I have experienced firsthand even out of the New Testament, that are like, this is an actual experience. This is somebody's experience of this force. But the way that they've twisted it, the way that they've incorporated with the other stories in that section, changes the outcome.
Right. It gives the reader a different perception.
Right. And they do that on purpose. It's like a misinformation guide. It's like the 101 guide to creating book of misinformation. It's like, what's the actual wisdom? What's the actual path of practice? What's the stories that we can recreate? Because it's like, somebody was trying to quote a passage in John to me, right? And it was God's rule for Christ for like using the light. And it's like, okay, well, light is a type of energy. This is a type of practice that we can actually engage in. These are how you connect to the different forms of light, so that way you can actually do the thing that this to-do list is telling you to do.
I mean, how do you think?
And then he blocked me on Facebook.
How do you think Jesus was healing people? It wasn't because he was magic. It's because he was doing incantations that were blessed by a high monk or high priest, or by him, maybe it doesn't matter, but it was oil that he was putting on. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Driving out
so get
spirit.
this, right? Like when I was younger, I had a friend of mine before the towers got knocked down who they claimed that there were witches that were working in the tower, right? The two towers. And one of them had access to or were aware of some clay urn that they were studying, which was being made when Jesus resurrected Lazarus, that actually had the voice of Jesus speaking over Lazarus, that got stored in the urn. And when they did the radio thing to it, like they were scanning it with a laser and it was like a
Right.
record player, it was actually
Right.
like you could actually hear the words of Jesus being spoken. Like that was the one of the things that it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then the towers got blown up and I haven't thought about it since, but
Well,
it's that same kind of,
now you got to ask yourself, when you heard those words speaking, they're going to try and say, "Oh, he's speaking in English," but you know damn well as I know, he was Arabic.
it was
Most likely.
Aramaic, straight up. Like, yeah, like there is no English in that. That is none of that is English.
Thank you.
None of it. There is no words to describe that sort of thing. And I'm not saying I heard that recording. I'm just saying that's what people at the time that I was studying with were like, yeah, this is totally a thing. And so having this information available to some people and not to everybody, it's like I was given a ritual from a manuscript in the British Museum to contact the Netcher. Like everything was recreated textbook perfect from this manuscript. And being able to go through and do this kind of thing, to be able to go through and delve into this kind of thing, has just been an outstanding application of what happens when you get your hands on the right information.
Again, that's why I said I'm glad I learned Hebrew to read the Dead Sea Scrolls for myself, because now I find myself analyzing the writings of King Solomon, and it's like I don't have to stop and learn this because I've already learned the language. I know what I'm reading. You know what I mean? I know
Right.
the sigils are to be placed in times of the month and according to the Hebrew language itself. So that was quite fascinating how it kind of prepared me for my journey to where I'm at now. Like it all led up to, you know what I mean? I had no idea when I started. I had no idea when I started becoming a pastor that I was going to learn Hebrew, and I had no idea that 5 years later I would be practicing the magic that King Solomon was doing. You know what I mean? Because I learned that Hebrew, I learned them Torah code. It all led me to where I am today, and it's like I had mad respect for King Solomon, not just because he was wise, but because of the things he could do.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating in my book.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, this is the thing where it goes to like, I went through the ULC to get my ordination as a minister, right? Okay. To go to be a reverend. So I would have a conversation that would allow me to talk to other people in the priesthood, to different types of sects of priests and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, nobody takes the ULC seriously, but at the same time, what it is I'm getting up to is the same stuff you're getting up to, which is the same stuff that they did back in the day. So it's the same stuff. Like I rate my initiations with the ancient Egyptian gods in the same way that, pastors and ministers get the laying on the hands to replicate the power of Christ through apostolic lineage. Like it's the same magic. It's just I went without having to go through men to get it.
Right. Exactly.
And that's the thing, is like it's the pastoral lineage versus the direct application of it, and very much so sources of control, and very much so working with holy men like yourself and like others that are very Christian or very set in faith, not specifically one faith, but several faiths. Yep. Like this stuff is real, this stuff is tangible, and this stuff gets scary as shit. But to be able to handle it in such a way where it's like, okay, you're going to come to this in your own way. How can we facilitate it to make it better? That's my question. Right. And that's what this whole channel is about. That's what this whole grouping is about. That's what my academy is for. That is what for the workshop is for, so that we get to do these kinds of things.
Yeah, it's progress.
So that way, we don't have to live in the dark ages of magic anymore. If we want to throw a stick on the ground and turn it into a stick, one day we should be able to.
It kind of, upset me because as I was going through the Christianity and whatnot, and was studying Jewish texts at that time, I was Torah only. I was going through the studies and stuff, and I ran across Rabbi Kadori. And now this rabbi is prominent. I mean, like he lived to be 100 and some years old. He did Kabbalah. He blessed pendants and stuff. Like he has a school. He's a prominent guy. But I did a video against him teaching how it was evil and they shouldn't be doing that. And like he's going to hell because he's basically siding with the devil. I had to take it off my channel because after I went and had that hard lesson in Kabbalah and the microcosm, macrocosm, and how it had to do with astrology and tarot cards and like your body, and like once I had a deeper knowledge of the Zohar and that stuff, like I understood that the video was wrong. Like I accused him wrongly. Like he
See, and now what would your words be for those people that are afraid of magic to that capacity? Like you now know that you were wrong. What about all of those people that are telling the witches that are trying to find their way, or the Christians to actually apply their faith? Like my whole thing is like, okay, you're a Christian, right? You want to call down the power of God, do so. Fucking do it.
What's it tell you in the Bible, right? When you talk to God, you should go into a room closed with nobody there, alone.
Right.
What do you do when you do your incantations to practice to the gods? You do it in a room by yourself, alone, right? It's not just that God, but all gods. Like, give them the respect they deserve. Give them the offerings they deserve. Do it in a way they deserve.
Yeah.
Mankind has lied to you. It's like, this is what I tell everybody, okay? We had this thing called the Dark Ages, all right? And before the Dark Ages, everybody knew what the fuck was going on, how to talk to the gods, do the rituals like we're doing. Like everybody was more spiritual back then. They weren't like, oh, just one faith and fighting over state. We didn't have all them fucking problems back then. From the Dark Ages, it was all about control and hiding information because they needed to make sheeple. So nobody woke up after the Dark Ages. Everybody stayed asleep and just got further away from the truth. So now when you dig back and you try to understand what was going on back then, you got to dig through all these damn lies and propagated situations to find out logically what was really going on back then. And when you understand the older languages and the older mythologies, and you understand how you're created and how it was so twisted, like, oh, the number of the beast. Well, that's everybody, because we're all 666. We're all made up of 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. Like, that's the number of man. Every man, not just one.
Right.
They lie to you. You know what I mean? So, like, when you understand these lies and you understand it's allegory and like, you understand the astrology behind the microcosm, macrocosm, Kabbalah, the 2 towers, like, when you understand the metaphysical world and the mental world and like all these worlds, like the Taurus field, like the world, when you understand all this, you understand that you are more magical than they tell you. You
right.
You don't need to become a David Copperfield. You just need to study to become like him.
Right.
We all have that power. It was just hidden from us.
Right. And then it becomes a matter of behaviors, because in the Bible, it says, thou shalt not suffer witch to live. Right. And I hate this line so much. But at the same time, there is a distinct difference between the type of holy magic that we do in service of others, right, and the type of witchcraft that people use to afflict and punish and subvert and to do all of the horrible things. Right.
And I got to stop you right there for a minute. Because when you talk about that and you talk about burning a witch to supper, okay, people also, again, have to realize that time. Oh, absolutely. Everybody knew magic. It's, you know what I mean? Everybody would have been considered a witch, because whether it be doing a home remedy for a tea so you don't get sick, or whether you're blessing a pendant, it's all witchcraft. Oh, absolutely. Praying would have been considered witchcraft. You know what I mean? So what really was a witch back then? A witch would have been somebody that used that said practice evilly, you know what I mean? With intent to harm. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been considered witchcraft, witchery, You know what I
Right.
mean?
And see, this is the thing, but the craft that we do in practice now, it's the same as that, it's the same as those. It all comes down to intent. So
Yes.
the labeling of yourself as a witch using the knowledge of the ancestors is different than the type of practices that they're specifically talking against in books like that.
Right.
Like, and that's what's led to the unfortunate death of so many people. Like, they still do witch burnings in India, they still do stonings
Oh yeah,
in
for sure.
Jamaica, and they still
Go to Iraq and say you're a witch. I guarantee they shoot you.
yeah, exactly, they'll cut your head off. And
Right.
it's like they have entire sections of the Quran that teach not magic,
Right.
like the
And you can
prayers that
use
you say when
Arabic
you
style writing in magic.
oh yeah.
You know what
So
I
I
mean?
mean, and that's the thing, is because people that are trying to use the Bible as a this is the holy word of God that should not ever be modified don't realize that, one, it's a collection of stories from the Nicene Council, and
Right.
that gets modified every few hundred years by whoever decides to go write a new one. And this
Originally
is why
started
it's
by the Piso family and put out by Constantine.
right. And this is why it's like I'm in a very Christian business owners groups, and it's like I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to create a project that would allow us to test to see exactly how the divine is active today. So would anybody be down for collecting their experiences in a sort of new type of Bible where you could actually see the principles of heaven being applied today, not using idol worship of a single man, right? Everybody uses Jesus as an idol, like the crucifix with him on it being, murdered for his passions. It's like, we're not going to do that. And it got so much hate,
Because again, they tell you that there was a son of God, when really the truth about it is we are all sons of the God.
Right.
It's
We're all descendants of Noah,
We're-
which is a descendant of Shem, Ha, and Japheth. Right.
right. Just like I said, we're all 666. It's not just one evil man, it's all of us. When you understand the biochemistry of the human, you understand that. It's like, you see how they twisted that. Well, they did it a lot in that Bible. You figure, Constantine had all these people bring all these writings together, piece them together, and put them out for control, which were ultimately written, most of them by the Piso family, put together by the Piso family. So, when you talk about real magic, you have to go to sources like the Sumerian or the Akkadian or the Egyptian or the Hebrew, languages that were from back then that have specific magical properties. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, and this is why I love my work in Samaria.
Right.
Like, this is why I use the cuneiform tablets. This is why I use ancient Greek. This is why I use Egyptian stuff, and not pretty much anything else, unless it's like the Icelandic rune system. It's very specific to very ancient principles that are available for us to be able to duplicate, replicate, and create with the same kind of effect. And so for those of the viewers and stuff like that are sitting on the fence between their faith and their study of sorcery, their study of psychicism, their study of the ritual craft behind things outside of just the consecration of a piece of bread to become like flesh and and a glass of wine to become like blood, like the transubstantiation rituals. Like, how much more necromantic can you get when you're consuming the flesh and the blood of a living person?
Right.
Like, this is supposed to become living blood. This is supposed to become living flesh, and you're conjuring these things to be.
Right. And see, I think that's why I got into necromancy, because I'm a paranormal investigator. Through everything I've learned and everything I've been through, like, I know it's real. Like, I've seen both sides.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't see angels. Let me rephrase that. It's not like I seen an angel, but when I had my NDE, my near-death experience, I know there was another unearthly being around me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's hard to say. It wasn't of any kind of evil intent. It was just love, a lot of it. It was a warm feeling, like I was okay. While I'm staring down at my body, these doctors rushing around, my wife falling out the door, like I've seen all this. You know what I mean? But yet I had no feeling, but I was loved and, like, where I needed to be, and just like, my main aspect was on what was going on in the room. And then obviously it wasn't my time, because just like that, I'm waking up to nurses asking me what my name is, what day it is, and you know what I mean? So, but just to have that experience was just like, that was my guardian angel just waiting to whether she should take me or he should take me. Obviously, it would be a she because of the yin and the yang. So, whether she could take me or not. And apparently, I guess it was not my time. She left and I went back to my body. That
Yeah.
energy, that force, you know. Like there's so much I can relate to now after that experience, not just physically, but also spiritually, like that metaphysical world up there. Like, though I was in it very shortly, it makes me want to leave this flesh suit. Like, I want to get the fuck out of this flesh suit and go home. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it was the best feeling in the world. There was no hell. I wasn't being born. Now I'm sure if I'd have kept on going, I would have went to the scales against the feather, like, you know, Anubis. I'm
That
sure of it. You know
that's
what I
some
mean? I
interesting
know
shit.
there's something like that. I didn't make it that far. You know what I mean? For
Oh,
some
that
reason, I
place
was
is
meant to come
weird.
back, whether it was to teach sorcery or whatnot, necromancy, cartomancy, stonomancy, whatever. You know what I mean? I think that's why I'm a healer. I think that's why I'm a sorcerer, because I don't dabble just in, you know, like I don't dabble just in the dark. I do the light too. You know what I mean? Like I say on my YouTube channel, the darkest dark is the brightest light. That is so
Under
true.
the right conditions, absolutely.
Yes.
Under the right conditions, like there is some shit that I've done for clients that keeps them alive, and you know, they're alive, they're breathing. Their
Look,
enemies, not so much.
I got heart disease, bone disease. Like, I should literally, with the shit I've done in my life, be dead. Like, without a doubt. People will tell you that know me. I should be dead. Like, but I'm not, because I credit the gods. I live the way I'm supposed to live. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here for a reason. What that reason is, I won't know till it's done.
Right.
But I push forward every day, instilling good things into my children and instilling good virtues into the people that watch my videos.
And that's what
Just
we got to
telling them
do.
the
That's what
truth.
we got to do every
Yeah,
single day.
exactly.
So I really appreciate your time on this one, Mike.
Hey, no problem, man.
So we will definitely chat later, and we will do more of these for the workshop, and I'll send you a copy so that you can post it up on your
I'm
channels as
recording it,
well.
so I'm good.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll post it up and we'll put it in different places. But yeah, this is one of those things where for those that are looking to get into the magic, I'm talking like the holy stuff, like the tapping into your divinity, not just the idolism of faith, right? You be idle and you can read your books on witchcraft. You can say, oh, those are nice ideas. But until you start conjuring the gates like Daniel's doing, like until you start experiencing the stuff like you did with like Michael, like the thing is like what we're doing and the things that we're talking about is the application of faith as it exists today. And not everybody is going to have the same experience. Not everybody has to. And that's the beauty of modern technology, is that it allows for those that have those experiences to talk to find others that are looking to explore their own applications of it, and from their own applications of it, build community around it, right? And there is no jihad, there is no war,
Yeah.
there is no conflict between your separate experiences or my separate experiences or Daniel's separate experiences or Trevor's or any of the Brotherhood, or, you know, like Yajani and all of those fucking spirits that were talking yesterday. Like, none of that requires us to go to war and kill each other. All of that instills peace and harmony and love of your brother, right? Like you, like Trevor, like Johnny, like
there's a lesson, you know, out there, and it just doesn't need to be your brother. It can be your neighbor or your friend. Like, it extends community. You know what
exactly.
I mean? Like, that's what wizards and druids and mages did back then. They worked for bettering the community. They helped the king and you know, the queen to better help the community spiritually. You know, they didn't say, "Hey, run off to the pew and start praying."
Right. They were active in their faith.
Yes, they were, very much.
So yeah, and that just gets right into up into the next video that we got to do. It's the mentorship stuff, because it's like I've got my stack of papers that I've been working on over the last 2 years, trying to refine this in such a way where it doesn't sound like, oh my God, this is a crazy cult concept. This is modern mentorship. This is we are wizards. This is our responsibility to master these concepts so that through our mastery, new people coming to this information get served by the wisdom we've been able to accumulate because we study the things that other people don't. So that way through us, they can save time, and they don't have to spend the hundreds of thousands of hours that I've spent in the books, or the hundreds of thousands of hours you've spent in your books. It's the coming together for these kinds of conversations saves people more time in understanding that this stuff isn't fringe. This stuff, well, it is fringe because nobody wants to take the time to fucking do their goddamn homework.
And that's the thing. That's the thing, you guys out there that, you know, haven't got this book here yet. I suggest you go on Amazon and look up Grimoire of Arts by Brian.
I appreciate that.
Everything is figured out, man. Everything is there. It's figured out. He saves you so much time. Like, you don't have the mental stress to go through all the time, the hours. It's already there. And what's awesome is pay attention, guys, because in a little bit is the 10th anniversary edition, which is going to be even greater. So if you don't have this one, I suggest you hurry up and get this one so you can get the next one.
See, I love that. And I really appreciate, like, that's a sincere recommendation. Like, thank you.
I love that book.
Thank you, man. I cannot say thank you enough, because it's one thing for me to talk about it like, hey, this is awesome. But for like other people to be saying like, hey, this is awesome. It's like, dude, that's fucking epic.
This one here, honestly, and this is my opinion, guys, this one here was so much easier to read after I read this one. I was so lost reading this thing. Like, what the is he talking about? Like, I printed it out. My wife printed it out. Like, I was studying it. And let me tell you guys, I didn't understand it until I got this book here. $40 on Amazon. You can't go wrong, especially if you're somebody that loves King Solomon.
Yeah. So I love the old Grimoire Magics, man. And again, thank you so much for such a positive recommendation for other people. So anyway, we'll stop the video and I will see you in just a little while, folks.
All right.